Before I dive in with my professional intro, I've got to say it's really fun for me getting to watch people groove around like in their desks and classes. So thank you for all you dancers out there. It always makes my day. My name is Jesse. I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And if you're joining us for the first time, which some of you are certainly on YouTube today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. We did 365 programs last year. We're on program number 7 this year already. We are doing a big blitz with our friends at Parks Canada. So if you get the chance, check out our Peak Discovery series. We are featuring all the amazing places in Alberta and British Columbia, some of the most special places and creatures on planet Earth. Now, before we dive in with our topic du jour, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, you can play along with a little 4-question quiz to test your understanding and win ultimate bragging rights. So feel free to pull up this game pin. I'll put that in the chat for everyone in a second as well, and we'll be getting to that in about 25-30 minutes. Now today, the reason that so many of you are here, 616 kids are here from 10 states, 6 provinces. It's a crazy big audience, is because we are talking about bears, Rocky Mountain bears to be particular. And so we're going to dive in on black bears, brown bears, some of the differences, similarities, how you can tell them apart, stay safe in the wild, and appreciate these incredible creatures. Now, we're going to have a really interactive show today. So if you're on YouTube or StreamYard, keep your hands at the keyboard so you can answer all sorts of questions throughout. It's going to be extra fun. With all that said, I'm going to zip it. I'm going to turn you over to Sierra at lovely Jasper National Park, and she is going to dive in with some very good times. So, Sierra, welcome to the broadcast, and take us away.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. Yeah, like Jesse said, my name is Sierra, and I'm here to teach you guys all about one of the Rocky Mountain's most famous residents, bears. And today I'm presenting from Jasper National Park, which is shown in the photo here. All right. Before I begin, I would just like to acknowledge that Jasper National Park is located in Treaty 6 and 8 territory, as well as the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Assiniboine-Winnewack, Daneza, Nehewak, Secwepemc, Stoney Nakoda, Mountain Métis, and Métis nations. I would like to acknowledge the past, present, and future generations of these nations who continue to guide the way in which we learn from and live on the land. Now, if you joined me in my last program, we talked a lot about the different wildlife that live here in the Rockies, but most of you had a lot of questions about one particular animal, and that was bears. So I thought I would dive deeper into the fascinating world of bears that live here in the mountains. Now, I want everyone to close their eyes for a second and think of the first few words that come to your mind when you hear the word bear. Just have a think about that for a second. When you hear the word bear, what do you think about?
With this, I think of Winnie and Smokey right now because they're on the street.
Yeah, here's some
really
prompts. Some people think that bears are cute and cuddly creatures. They like to eat their honey jars like Winnie the Pooh. And some people also see them as vicious, evil animals, like this photo in the middle here. But the reality is that bears are often very silly creatures. Here are some photos captured on wildlife cameras here in Jasper. And as you can see, bears are pretty funny animals. Bears like to scratch their backs on trees, which we'll be talking a little bit more about later on. And they like to fall over. They fall over just like us humans. They slip on ice. No, they don't slip on ice because they're sleeping in the wintertime, but they do fall over. But they're also very powerful creatures, and they should be respected in order to keep them wild and us humans safe. Now, here in the Rockies, we have 2 types of bears, black bears and grizzly bears. And while these bears live pretty similar lives, there are some key differences between the 2 species that are pretty important to know. So first, we're going to talk about grizzly bears. Now, most grizzly bears are brown or grizzled in color, which is how they get their name grizzly bear, but they can also be a variety of colors from light brown to black. Typically, grizzly bears are the larger of the 2 bears, and they have a big chunk of muscle between their shoulders, which creates a noticeable shoulder hump. As you can see in this photo here, they have that big hump between their shoulders. Grizzly bears also have a round and dish-shaped face and short little ears. And lastly, grizzly bears have long curved claws, about 5 to 10 centimeters in length, and this helps them dig for food like roots, insects, and ground squirrels. So those are our grizzly bears versus our black bears. Now, black bears, even though are called black bears, they can be found in all sorts of colors, from brown to cinnamon to even blonde. And of course, they can be black. But most black bears are somewhere in between brown and black. Then you do get that odd blonde black bear here in the Rockies. So this is very important to know if you ever spot a bear, that you can't just say, oh, that bear's black, it's a black bear. It could also be a grizzly bear. So you want to note those other differences, like size. Black bears are typically much smaller than grizzly bears, and they have skinnier legs than them as well. Black bears have small heads with elongated noses, and they have pointy ears like shown in this photo. And black bears also have shorter claws, and these are perfect for climbing trees to help them escape predators. All right, here is a photo of a family of bears here in Jasper. Now, can anyone tell me whether or not they think this is a black bear family or a grizzly bear family?
Ooh, all right. Feel free to put this in the chat, everyone. We got a whole bunch of YouTubers, a whole bunch of StreamYard classes. This is a great, like, I've never seen a picture like this. I really like that you have such a distinct group. We got black for the first one. No
shoulder hump equals black bear. Correct.
Nice. Yeah. Black. Everyone picked black.
This is a black bear family. And just like Da Vinci Academy said, no shoulder hump. That's one of the best ways to tell the difference between the two types of bears. And these bears also are quite small. The mama bear there, she's not super large, so that's another great way to tell. But look, every bear in that family is a different color. So yeah, it's important to note the size and the hump on the back when you're identifying bears. All right, now let's imagine we are bears living in the Canadian Rockies. Take a moment to think about what kind of home you'd need. What kind of home would you want? Maybe you'd want a cabin in the woods, or you'd want to live near a lake. I don't know. Think about what kind of home you'd want as a bear. We're going to dive into that in a second.
Fantastic. And while we get this too, by the way, I will note our YouTube classes, please do chime in as well. I know it takes a few seconds for you to get your answers in, but we'd love to hear from you as well. Sierra, look at these great places. My goodness, best bear homes ever.
Yeah, so bears, nope, they don't want a cabin in the woods, but they do want 4 specific things in their home. And first, they want a very big backyard. And no, it needs to be a little bit bigger than the backyard that you may have at your home. Think big, like valleys between mountains big. Bears travel far and wide to find what they need, so they need room to roam. The next thing they need is a food-filled forest with a giant nature buffet with all of their favorite foods surrounding them. And even though bears are big and strong, they really like quiet places like forests, valleys, hidden meadows, places where they can relax without humans around them. And finally, the last thing they want in their home is, similar to us, fresh water sources. So yeah, they might want to live near a lake or a river. So these are the 4 main things that bears need in their backyard and in their home. So if you tuned in to my last program, we talked a lot about what bears eat. And even if you weren't there, can someone name something that they think that bears eat here in the wild, here in the Rockies?
All right, multi-age 2-3s. You guys are like hands up everywhere. What do bears eat? Huckleberries.
I heard huckleberries.
Yeah. Mr. Alston's class, what do we think? Berries, fish, meat. We're getting all sorts of stuff. Berries, yeah. Geez, berries, fish, meat are all our big answers.
Berries,
these are great.
Fish, meat. Yeah, these are all correct answers. Great work, guys. So bears, like you guys all said, they eat a variety of things, and it really depends on what's available at the time of year. They'll eat flowers, shrubs, grasses, any kind of plant, anything that will really give them calories as well as any kind of meat they can find, like elk or deer calves, squirrels, chipmunks, fish if they can catch them. But in the late summertime and early fall, this is when the forest gets really delicious for bears, as it's berry season. So along with all these other things, bears are focused on finding the best berries. Huckleberries, buffalo berries, bearberries, any kind of berries. They'll eat them all. Fall is also mushroom season, so bears will take advantage of mushrooms that are growing on the forest floor as well. All right, moving on. If you joined me in your last session, or if you just know a lot about bears, we talked a lot about how much bears eat in a day. So they typically eat about 20,000 calories. Now, if you were a bear in the midsummer and your diet consists of mostly just berries, how many berries do you think would take to build 20,000 calories?
One big berry. That's my guess. I think I'm wrong, but let's see. Let's see what we've got. Feel free to chime in the chat, everyone. Lavi, what do you think? How many berries?
I want to say around 800.
800 berries. Okay, cool. More than my big one. Edison Scholars, QW15 Virtual Elementary School. If you guys have things, we can always come to you if you unmute your microphones. We've got 1,000 pounds of berries from Miss Grimm's class in Tucson, Arizona. Let's see. Get those answers in. 15,000 or 2 bushes from Miss Roberts. 1,000 berries from Elena. Sierra, these are all good answers. I love them.
These are all great answers, but the correct answer is approximately 200,000 berries. So much bigger than the one that you said, Jesse. So that's a lot of berries. Bears will spend approximately 14 hours a day just searching for berries and eating them. So it's a pretty crazy number, but bears eat a lot of food, and if they want to eat berries, they need to find a lot of them. So they eat so many berries that their scat will look like it does on the right here. And this is what their scat looks like in the summer and fall time based on that berry-only diet. Versus the springtime scat, it looks a little bit different because they're really just eating dandelions and grasses, and they don't have those berry seeds in their scat like they will in the summer or springtime. Or summer or fall time, sorry. All right. Now, you may have heard that bears hibernate in the winter. And while this is true, they do it in a special bear way that's a little bit different than other animals that hibernate, like ground squirrels or chipmunks. Ground squirrels and chipmunks drop their body temperature to almost freezing, and they sleep super deeply. But bears go into a long winter sleep called torpor. And I know what you might be thinking, what does torpor mean? Well, torpor means their heart beats really slowly. They breathe just a little bit. They don't eat, drink, they don't eat, drink, they're sleeping, and they don't go to the bathroom. And they sleep for months at a time. So that sounds just like hibernation, right? But in the torpor state, bears can and will wake up quickly if they need to. So unlike squirrels, they aren't frozen popsicles in their dens, but they're not fully awake either. Now, before winter, both types of bears have one job: to eat. They spend the fall gobbling any and all food they can find. This fat becomes their winter energy battery. And when the snow arrives, bears find or build a cozy den to rest in. They line their home with leaves, grass, and branches to make it super soft and warm. And then their torpor stage begins. Their heart rate drops from 50 beats per minute to just 8 beats per minute. But like I mentioned before, they can still wake up if something disturbs them. Well, what do we think could possibly disturb a bear during their hibernation state?
People? That would be my guess. Someone coming around and going, oh, cool, maybe there's a bear hibernating in there. Don't do that. Do we have any other guesses? Other bears? Yes, people. Thank you for agreeing with me. It's always nice when I get affirmation. That's what I live for. Humans, lots of humans. Humans. Bugs, coyotes. Very cool. All right. All the other animals are just like, don't want the bear to sleep. apparently.
For sure. Jesse, you are correct. People could definitely disrupt humans in many different ways. So it could be in the form of a helicopter flying over their den really close, making lots of noise. Could be backcountry skiers, snowmobiles. And yes, whoever said coyotes, it could be predators. Wolves, cougars could be making noise near them. Another thing that could disrupt bears is sudden changes in weather. So their hibernation state is all based on the temperature outside. And so when we get these warm bursts, especially in early spring, bears could wake up because they think spring's arrived, and then we'll get another cold burst and it'll disrupt their sleep state there. And another thing that can disrupt them is the lack of fat. So if a bear didn't bulk up enough during the fall and summertime, their energy runs low and they might wake up because they need food. This is rare, but it does happen. And so a bear will wake up and search for any kind of food it can find to build up that reserve so that it can sleep a little bit longer. And then once the snow begins to melt and the warm spring sun returns, bears slowly wake up, hobble their way out of their den, and you guessed it, immediately start looking for food again. Bears are very food motivated. Now, females who were pregnant before going into hibernation have an extra special role to play. Females give birth during the winter, usually in January or February, so about this time right now. And their cubs are tiny. A baby bear cub is about the size of a pop can. And the cubs stay warm by snuggling their mom's belly. And the mom spends her time nursing, sleeping, and protecting her cubs for the rest of the winter. Most of the time, bears will give birth to 2 cubs, but if food was scarce, sometimes only 1 is born. And if food was abundant, bears have been known to have up to 3 or 4 cubs. Now, bears are genuinely solitary animals, meaning that they travel and search for food on their own, unless they have cubs. Then the mother will stay with her cubs for up to 3 years. Grizzly bears are at the top of the food chain, so they're more likely to defend themselves when surprised, and they're known to be a little bit more aggressive than black bears. Here is a photo of a grizzly bear defending an elk carcass that it found. And if you look closely, you can see that the bear covered the elk up with rock and dirt to hide it from other animals. And it's very protective of this kill that it's going to be feeding on for the next couple of weeks. Now, black bears are smaller than grizzly bears, and they're much more timid too. And they're also a little bit more shy. So when they are spooked or startled, their tactic is to run away or climb a tree to escape the predator or whatever it is that approached them. Just like this photo here of a black bear climbing a fence to escape whatever it is it was startled from. So you might remember these photos of bears rubbing on trees. Yeah, they're pretty funny. Well, these trees they're rubbing on are known as rub trees. And bears are scratching their backs and trying to leave their scent behind as a way to communicate to other bears. It's how they say, "Hey, I was here." Other bears will come across their scent and be able to understand if the bear was a male or a female, when it was there, and if it's safe to be in that area. These rub trees let others know who is the boss around here. Smaller bears will come across these rub trees and know they better leave right away to avoid unwanted encounters. All right, so many different bears will use the same rub tree in order to communicate with one another. Mama bears teach their cubs to use these rub trees at a very young age. Now I'm going to play a video showing you how bears use these rub trees.
Get ready. So fun.
Oh, I love that video.
I want to scratch just watching it. Like I feel itchy all over. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you notice how that elk wandered by, took one sniff, and knew this is not safe for me to be around?
Yep, go on.
I love that part of the video. And while a lot of those bears did look similar, most of them were different bears. And so many bears use the same rub trees, and this is how they communicate to one another without having to do it face to face. All right. Now, bears in the Rocky Mountains have some secret superpowers that you might not know about. And I'm going to name a few here today. So bears, firstly, are super sniffers. Bears can smell food up to 20 kilometers away. Their sense of smell is about 100 times better than humans, which is just crazy for an animal. But they use that to their advantage to find food, of course, because that's what they're looking for all day long. Bears are also super duper strong. An adult grizzly bear can flip over boulders, tear apart logs, and dig massive holes in the ground with ease. Grizzly bears can lift up to 500 pounds with just one paw, which is pretty crazy. That's insane. Black bears are also quite strong. Not quite strong as grizzly bears, but they do have lots of power, and they will use their strength to flip over rocks, rip open logs, and climb trees, of course, like we saw earlier. And also, both bears are super speedy when they want to be. And they need to be fast in order to catch any kind of meat, like elk, calves, and squirrels. They need to be fast to be able to catch those animals. Grizzly bears, as they are a bit bigger and have that shoulder hump of muscle, can run up to 55 kilometers an hour or 35 miles, which is way faster than any of us can go on our bikes. So it's pretty crazy to picture a grizzly bear moving that fast. And black bears are just a bit slower behind them at being able to run a speed of 45 kilometers an hour or 30 miles per hour. So this is a good reminder to never run away from a bear because they will catch up. And one of the most shocking superpowers that bears have is they are excellent swimmers. Both black bears and grizzly bears are confident, strong swimmers, and they can paddle across large lakes, fast-moving rivers, and even glacial-fed cold waters with no trouble at all. Bears will swim to reach food, escape danger, and to travel in between habitats. Now, every superhero has their threats, and bears that live here in the Rocky Mountains are no different. And they have a few key factors that threaten their ability to live in the wild. The first one is habitat fragmentation. Now, this is a big word, so I'll explain it a little. Imagine the forest is one giant playground where bears eat, rest, run, and travel wherever they want. Now, imagine someone builds a road over here, and a town over there, and a fence right through the middle of it. And suddenly, that giant playground gets broken into little pieces. And this is what habitat fragmentation means. Bears get trapped on one side of the fence or one side of the road, and they aren't able to cross safely. That's one of their biggest threats that they face here in the Rockies, especially in our national parks where there's so many visitors and roads and railways breaking up their habitat. The next threat is habituation, another big word, but it essentially means that bears get too used to people. Wild bears are supposed to keep their distance from humans, but when bears see people a lot and nothing scary ever happens, or maybe they're even rewarded by maybe getting into an unattended picnic with some yummy Dorito chips, those bears start to associate humans with food, which means they're more likely to keep hanging around and even become aggressive towards humans. And if they take it too far, it can often lead to Parks Canada having to relocate or potentially put down a bear because they become too used to human presence and become a threat to us. And finally, we have railway strikes. Throughout the Rockies, there are many railway lines that are often also cause habitat fragmentation. We know to stay away from the tracks, but for bears, it can seem like a shortcut to access their home. Also, often food spills out of trains, such as seeds or grains, and this provides food for bears. Since bears follow their noses and not their brains, this can often lead to bears getting struck by trains on the tracks when they're feeding on grains and seeds that are dropped by the trains. And while these threats are real and should be mitigated, there are some things that you can do when you're visiting the Rocky Mountains that can help lower the threats to bear population. The best thing we can do is to help prevent habituation. We do this by keeping your campsite clean, putting your food away, making sure you have no smelly items out so bears aren't tempted to come and join you at your picnic. And while this does happen, it is never a good idea to feed the wildlife, any sort of wildlife, but especially the bears. And this also includes throwing your apple cores out the window or any kind of food scraps. Those will lead bears to them, and they'll associate those food scraps with humans, and it will contribute to habituation of the animals. Another step in preventing this is to view wildlife from a safe distance. Here in Jasper, we have tons of bears, and they're often spotted on the sides of the road. But just because you're in the safety of your vehicle, this doesn't mean you should be this close, like this photo here. That woman is way too close to this bear, and this just adds to the habituation point of bears not being afraid of humans. That bear should not be okay with a vehicle being that close to them. So these are just a few things that we can do when we're visiting the Rockies and viewing wildlife that can help keep the bears that we have here wild. Finally, I think it's important to know what to do if you see a bear along a hiking trail, in a campground, or even around the town of Jasper or Banff or wherever in the Rockies. Bears do like to hang out near the town sites. Now, the first thing you want to do if you come across a bear is stop and stay calm. No running or screaming. Make sure you don't startle the bear. And then you want to give the bear lots of space. Keep your group close together and back away while talking in a calm, low voice. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you run into a black bear once, they notice you, they will scurry away. They're shy little creatures. They'll either up a tree or into the woods. Grizzly bears might stand their ground a bit more, but once you make noise, bears are most likely to walk away, climb a tree, or keep eating if that's what they were doing, which is most likely what they were doing. So remember, if you see a bear, let everyone in the group know, stay calm, back away, and give them space. All right. Now we've reached the end of my presentation there. So I want to thank you for tuning in and open up to any and all questions you may have about these magnificent creatures.
Amazing. Well, Sierra, first and foremost, thank you so much for the deep dive. We learned so much. We got a great back scratching video, and we've got all sorts of cool resources to share at the end of the broadcast as well. So I will note that because we're going to do a Kahoot now, you might not get all your questions answered, but you can email them to me. I'll pass them to Sierra, and anything you ever wanted to know about bears will be back in your inbox very soon. But what we're going to begin with is our Kahoot. There's already a whole horde of you in there, 85 kids, which is awesome. If you're new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And we've got some real Kahoot champions today, past winners. So I'm very excited to dive in with this and see what we can do. We are going to get underway and get to it. Then when we go to Q&A, it's going to be Mr. Alston, Lavi, Virtual Elementary, Edison Scholar, Multi-Age 2-3, and 2W15 in that order with some YouTube friends as well. Here we go. Question 1. What's a bear's favorite food? We showed that scat picture earlier. Is it coffee, pizza, berries, or grass? Now, to be fair, because I'm sure we're going to get a very similar answer on this, they might not have tried enough pizza to really have the sample size to tell. But in lieu of that, what is our answer? 90. Oh, are we going to get 100? Do we have 100 in the Kahoot? Oh, yes. Berries, of course, are correct answer. All right. Way to go, everybody. Let's see what we got. Miraculous Sea Lion is in first. Barely. What is a bear's hibernation phase called? Sleepy time, cat nap, torpor, slumber. We're That looks like a very sleepy bear. That's like the sort of face that my dog makes when she wakes up every morning, like, ugh, what's going on? It's winter. Did a mosquito wake me up? Did a person wake me up? We don't know. 100. We've got 100 in the Kahoot. Sierra, it's like a legendary thing. Torpor is correct. Way to go, everybody. Okay, most of you got this right. Sleepy, I mean, it is sleepy time. It is slumber.
Nice.
But Torpor is correct. Miraculous Sea Lion keeps our lead. Rational Piranha is second. Third question, true or false? The best way to tell the difference between a grizzly bear and a black bear is by color. Is this true or false? You saw that picture of the black bear family. Was it so easy to tell them apart? That might be your hint. Let's see. 13 seconds to go. Man, we have so many questions in the chat. Miss Grimm's class, Miss Roberts' class, Miss Grell Smith's class. You guys are amazing. Thank you for sharing so much on YouTube. Live classes, we're coming to you all soon. One more second. Falls. Ooh, we tripped up a lot of people with this. So, yes, maybe typically black, brown bears, different colors, but as we saw with the black bear family, they can literally look almost like you could have a mama bear with a brown and a black baby. And so it is not a clear way to tell there are other better ways. Bold Iguana bursts into the lead over Miraculous Sea Lion with one question to go. What is one major threat that bears face in the Rocky Mountains? Lack of food, getting lost, finding friends, or railway strikes? We talked about this quite a bit at the end. I hope they don't get lost. They seem like pretty good navigators to me. It's all the compasses that they hold in the fur. Just pull those out and find their way. No. Let's see. 4 more seconds. Get those answers in. All right, Mr. Alston's class, we're coming to you first. Railway strikes is our correct answer. Let's see our leaderboard. Drum roll, please. Third is Snowy. Second is Miraculous Sea Lion. And first, for all the marbles, barely by 5, such a tight thing today, is Bold Iguana. If you are Bold Iguana, let us know where you're joining from. And no matter what, guys, it's not about winning. Thank you all for playing. We want to reinforce these main concepts, and you guys are fantastic. So, Sierra, as you said, we're going to dive in with questions. Let's start with our Cougar Cubs, Mr. Alston's class. Come on in, grade 4s, and take us away. Hey, guys. Let's see. Everyone's got a question. Good. My point is proved by this. Email me more when we're done. Cool. Hey, guys.
Okay, we've got Eva with a question.
Hey, Eva.
Come up here. So they can see you. Come over here, yeah.
Hi, Eva.
What's your question?
What is the smallest bear?
The smallest
Ooh,
bear.
the smallest bear.
Smallest bear would be the black bear. Specifically, a black bear cub would be the smallest bear.
Very tiny and cute. Great question. Thanks, Eva. All right, we're going to head to Levis in North Topsail Beach. Come on in and take us away. Hey.
Hi, how are you doing today?
So good.
Good, how are you?
Awesome. So my first question was, are there any other main predators for bears besides people?
Ooh.
So, grizzly bears here in the Rockies are top of the food chain. They don't have predators here. Their biggest threats are people. But black bears, however, are slightly lower on the food chain. And so actually a predator for black bears could be a grizzly bear. And a couple other predators for them could be wolves, but specifically wolf packs. One wolf wouldn't be able to take a black bear, but a giant pack of wolves potentially could. So yeah, grizzly bears are actually a predator to black bears, which is kind of funny.
I find it so fun when we get to talk about predators in Alberta and British Columbia. Like, as a Toronto boy, coddled in my big city when I grew up, you know, the idea that, like, oh, you could walk in the woods and run into mountain lions and bears and other kinds of bears and wolves. It's very, like, it's quite amazing, the animals that we have in Canada's West. So thanks for that question, Levy. All right, Virtual Elementary School, Ms. Arts Group, if you want to unmute your mic, you're good to go. Hey.
Hey, Sierra. I have Rachel, and she wants to know, do bears prefer meat or berries?
Ooh.
I think that bears would prefer meat. The reason being is because bears are focused on calories, and meat has a lot of calories. But here in the Rockies, our bears don't eat that much meat. They're about 80 to 90% vegetarian. They only eat meat when they come across it or they get lucky and they come across like an elk herd with a bunch of calves and they're able to capture one of the calves. So I think that bears, they really are focused on calorie dense food. So yes, meat would be in that stream, but bears love berries. I think if you gave a bear the option, they'd choose meat, but then they would also be like, but I also want the berries. So
It's a full meal. A little potato on the side, maybe some Brussels sprouts, like just everything that we have at dinner as well.
yeah.
Guys. All right, Edison Scholars, I'm going to come to you in a second. Do unmute your mic so we'll be able to take it live. You can also share in the chat if you don't want to unmute your mic, but I'll take a quick one from YouTube while we're waiting. So Elena wants to know in grade 2, can grizzly bears come in different colors as well, or is it just the black bears that are so diverse?
For sure. Grizzly bears can definitely come in different colors. There's been some semi-famous grizzly bears in the past that were actually nicknamed the black grizzly bear. So they can definitely come in different colors. It's not quite as diverse as black bears, but they definitely can come in a variety of colors. Yeah, both.
Yes. There you are. Edison Scholars, if you did want to flick on, there you go. Cool. Come on in. Take us away. Hey, guys. Hello.
What is the biggest prey a bear could get?
Ooh, the biggest thing a bear could eat. Yeah.
The biggest thing, a black bear or a grizzly bear, or either one?
Either one. Yeah.
Either one. Okay, I would say that it potentially could be a moose. Moose are the second largest animal in North America, and grizzly bears have been known to take down moose. This would be a sort of special case if the moose was maybe not super healthy or a little bit smaller, but I would say a moose. And secondly, it would be another bear.
Yeah.
Bear taking down another bear. Bears are also a very large animal here in the Rockies. So yeah, either moose or bear.
Well, and this is the thing too, and I'm really glad we're highlighting it in this way because like we don't necessarily have footage of something like this happening. A lot of bear hunts happen in very, very remote regions of the park where it's not like we have footage of bear hunting deer, we have footage of bear hunting all manner of things, certainly fish in droves, but like something like taking down a moose on camera might never actually be captured, but certainly conceivably possible, as you said, probably if the moose is sick. So I love this question. Thanks, guys, for thinking predatorily. I'm going to head to our multi-age 2-3 in Kalispell. Come on in, guys, and take us away. Hey.
My question is, how far can bears go without taking a break?
Ooh, cool question.
I think that the thing about bears is they're always taking breaks. So bears, they move to get food. And so bears move great distances. Sometimes their range can be up to 2,000 kilometers squared, which is a massive distance. And so bears will travel within that range to find food. And so yeah, it's hard to answer that question because bears will always stop to eat because that's why they're moving around. So bears won't travel long distances unless they need to. Yeah.
That's a great answer. I was going to say from the polar bear perspective, I know we've charted them going about like 100 kilometers in a swim, which is crazy. So there's big distances bears can travel. They're very, very powerful, strong, endurance-filled animals. So I love this query, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to take one more from our live groups. Live groups, I know you have many more. Please email them to me. We'll get them to Sierra when we're done. But 2W15, we're going to head to you. We'll take 2 from YouTube, and then we'll wrap up after that. Come on in, guys. Hey, welcome in.
Hi, good morning from beautiful Manitoba.
What's the temperature there?
Sam has a question. His question is, what would happen if 2 different types of bears met each other? Ooh. And is there a time that might be a little bit more aggressive or maybe a little bit more non-aggressive?
Neat question.
That is a great question. Now, typically bears, they will share their kind of home territory with one another. They don't kick other bears out. But if a black bear kind of stumbles across a grizzly bear, the black bear knows I am not top of this. I'm not going to win this fight. So a black bear would scurry away. Potentially what could happen if 2 grizzly bears met, especially if there was two males, they would kind of look up each other, look up and down at each other and see like who's bigger in this scenario, and the bigger and larger and stronger one would stand its ground. These cases are more around when, like that photo of that grizzly bear that had that elk carcass, this is more around food. And so if a bear had a kill, it would kind of stand its ground trying to protect so that it could feed off of it for the next couple of days. So it really comes down to who's bigger and who's stronger.
Yep.
But something that's interesting, and we don't have this in the Rocky Mountains where I live, but just west of us, they have salmon. And bears are often spotted in these, especially the spawning areas where the salmon are just jumping out of the water. People have spotted multiple bears at the same time, just hanging out by the river eating. And so bears are happy to share when there's an abundance of food. Yeah. But if there's just one, dead elk, then the bear is going to stand its ground. But if there's thousands of salmon coming down the river, you see multiple bears feeding off of those fish, which is pretty cool.
So in Alaska, you can see the falls with all the bears sitting there, and it's one of the most amazing things in all of nature, and one of the most common to see in outreach. So you'll see footage of this, like they've got a live camera of the bears at the falls every year. It's one of the biggest things in the world of nature, so I encourage you to check it out. Sierra, we got time for 2 more questions. I'm going to head to Jesus in Miss Grimm's class in Tucson. They want to know, how many bears do you think you have living in Jasper?
Oh, well, we have, and these numbers are approximate because, as you can imagine, it can be hard to track all of the bears throughout the park, but we have approximately 90 black bears here in Jasper, and then approximately 110 grizzly bears. And these numbers are probably much lower than the real numbers, but this is our best guess.
I love that you instantly shuffled a paper and you're like, we have this information. We do. Thank you for that. Makes my day. It's really rare that we actually know how many animals there are in general. It really speaks to Parks Canada's dedication as a monitoring organization to try and understand how many animals they have, because these are huge areas with big mountains. It is very challenging to track an animal, even as big as a grizzly or black bear. And so the fact that we know this to some degree is fantastic. Thanks for the question, guys. All right. I like this one from Miss Roberts. We talked at the beginning about bears being cute and cuddly, maybe, a bit scary for someone who might encounter one. So Miss Roberts wants to know, what would you do if you get stuck in a space with the bear where you can't give them space? What would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend, firstly, staying calm. And in this scenario, you really want to observe the animal and to see what the animal's thinking. So signs of aggression could be, their jaws clicking, they're growling. You're going to know if this bear is aggressive and sees you as a threat. And in that scenario, you want to remember and try your hardest not to run and just, go back the way you came, get out of that scenario as fast as you can. Also, it is a great idea if you're traveling and hiking in the Rockies to always have bear spray and know how to use it. And that's one of those scenarios that you'd want to have your bear spray out ready to go to deploy if you do need to. But often bears, they're curious creatures. And so if a bear stands on its hind legs, it's not necessarily a sign of it being aggressive. It's just trying to get a better look at you. And so that's something that I think really important to know for visiting the Rockies, because sometimes people get really freaked out. The bear just stood on its legs. It's being aggressive, but no, it's just actually trying to get a better look at you. And so if the bear is just being curious, that's when you just want to make lots of noise. And the bear will kind of probably look confused and be like, I don't want to interact with this. And more often than not, from my experience, they've just ran into the woods. Yeah. I personally have never come across an aggressive bear. It definitely isn't never going to happen type thing, but more often than not, bears are just curious. And once you make lots of noise, they're like, I'm out of here. I'm just looking for the best berry bush.
We've had adventurers that have traveled via canoe all of Canada's north. We've had bear photographers that follow bears all around this planet for 20 years. And out of thousands of interactions with bears, they'll maybe have one time where the bear was a little bit sketchy. And so it's really, really unlikely. The only bear you really don't want to run into in the wild alone is a polar bear, which does view you as a thing to eat. So avoid polar bears. When you're in polar bear country, there's lots of precautions, but in somewhere like Alberta, it's extremely unlikely you're ever going to have a negative interaction anyway. The bear is long gone before it even sees you because you are the scary thing to the bear. So I'm really glad we get to cover all this here. This has been so much fun. You guys have so many other great resources on your websites. I'll pass that to all our students when we're done. Email us more questions. But before we bring in all our kids to say a big thank you and farewell, is there any last message on bears you want to leave us with today?
I think the message I want to just get across is that bears, they're not scary creatures, but we just need to respect them. And give them space and do as much as we can to keep them wild because they are a majestic animal that deserves to be very protected like we do here in the park and even outside of the park. So yeah, respect bears if you come across them.
For all animals, it applies to everything. The world is so much better when we recognize the limits of animals, how we can observe them safely and in a way that keeps them wild. And I'm really glad we got that message in today. Thank you so much, Sierra. And as you know from joining us before, we're going to bring in everyone to say a big thank you and farewell, and then you can stick around when we're all done. But Mr. Alston's group, Lovey, Virtual Energy, Edison Scholars, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.